The motion, Senator Respicio, you recognize.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first I want to recognize our retirees that are here today. Our Manamco who have come out here on a Saturday morning where they probably spend this morning with their grandchildren or taking care of things for their family, but instead they have to be here to witness this legislative process, and I'm happy that they're here. I'm happy to once again welcome former Vice Speaker Ted Nelson to this session hall. He certainly has the right and privilege, and we extended that same privilege to former Senator Tello Taitagui and any other former senator that joins these proceedings. Madam Speaker, the question's been asked, what are we doing here on a Saturday morning trying to address Bill 174-32? Why was a public hearing waived? What is the rush? What is the rush? Well, I'll tell you what the rush is. The rush is to save money. The rush is to save money, and now that our Manamco are here, we have senators who are looking them in the eye and say, we want to give you choice. Well, you know what that choice translates to? That choice translates to $10 million additional that would have to be appropriated from taxpayers' pockets. That choice will translate to $8 million that will come out of our pockets, our active employees and our retirees. When the legislature raised issues on whether to go exclusive or non-exclusive, what we agreed to do in that Bill 81 was to have a parallel approach. So you have the negotiating team negotiate benefits if they were an exclusive carrier. Then you have the negotiating team negotiate benefits if they're non-exclusive carriers, if there was more than one. And so at the end of that process, you would have the negotiating team make a recommendation on the most economical option to go. And the Vice Speaker read the letter from the negotiating team, and so those numbers weren't made up, Madam Speaker. And so now you have some of our colleagues saying we should put the brakes on what we are attempting to do here. Why do they want to put the brakes? Do they want to put the brakes so that way the legislature thwart the legislative process and our ability to make appropriations for the government of Guam, so that the executive branch can move to sign a contract? We've heard from a senator on the Republican side saying that there is no contract. And then we also heard from the same senator, Madam Speaker, who read an Attorney General opinion. I'm wondering if we could read the same thing, and it's obvious that we can come to different conclusions. The opinion that he read from the Attorney General in reference to Public Law 30-227, Section 2, as codified by 4 GCA, Section 4302C2, Attorney General writes, is inorganic as a violation of the separation of powers doctrine to the extent that it interposes the legislature into the approval and decision-making process of the development, negotiation, and execution of the group healthcare contract by giving it authority to approve either which proposals are to be chosen, leading to negotiating of a healthcare contract, or the terms and conditions of the group healthcare contract. And by virtue of the Organic Act of Guam, these responsibilities are executive functions that properly belong with the governor. And so maybe it was a mistake to just go straight to the conclusion and announce that publicly, as opposed to just understanding the entire context to which the Attorney General submitted this opinion. The question was whether or not the legislature had the authority to approve the contract. Now that's where the issue of separation of powers doctrine, and that's where the Attorney General drew the line in the sand. And if our colleagues will just, instead of saying, I just received the bill, I don't have time to read it. Well, we've been here for almost 2 hours. This bill is not very long. If they read the bill, they would have known that in Bill 174, we're not telling the governor to go exclusive. We're appropriating the money to fund the health insurance contract. We're appropriating the money to fund the health insurance contract to make $10 million in taxpayer money available for all these priorities throughout the government of Guam. And we're also doing this to make sure that our Manamco, who have joined us this morning, don't have to pay more for health insurance premiums, are not somehow going to become ineligible for Medicaid. And so, colleagues, when we talked about about exploring the options of giving the government choice, we talked about providing a competitive environment so that the healthcare premiums will come down. And we told them to have a dual track in making these determinations. And so now if the best argument they have, Madam Speaker, is to give employees choice, and that's the best they have, if it would mean having Armanumco pay more for health insurance, if it would mean having them ineligible for Medicaid, is that the best you have, colleagues, to oppose Bill 174? Not only do you not want to give them $1,800 for COLA, and then when you force us to find digger within our pockets to find some ways to make these things possible, so it's not an empty promise. And I submit to you that substitute Bill 38 is not an empty promise. What do we hear from them, Madam Speaker? Oh, no, now we want to give them choice. What's the rush? Why are we here? Why are we here? Well, why are you here if all you're going to do is defend the executive branch? I'm just sick and tired of this separation of powers doctrine where we erode our authority as a legislature, and on the very face of it, our authority is to appropriate. And you're going to let the governor come in here and dictate to you when to leave, when to come, when to stand, when to sit? You talk about being ashamed yesterday for pointing fingers, and you're not ashamed? Colleagues, you're not ashamed? Inipos inipos niya. Enough is enough. And as a member of this legislature, I'm going to continue to stand up to protect our institution, Madam Speaker. And I'm grateful that we're in session on a Saturday. I'm grateful that we don't have the media having snippets of what we're doing or what we're not doing, or what we're not doing and they say we're doing. And that's why last night we chose to run yesterday's session on our legislative channel. And I thank the audio tech for coming in at 7 o'clock at night, and I thank him for staying until that thing was done, because we have to manually push play and then we have to manually push stop. So now you guys want to push stop? The Republicans want to push stop so that Armanumco can pay more? So that our active employees can pay more? And on top of that, we have a proposal, again identified as the mover of the proposal, Speaker Ben Pangilinan. We had a colleague yesterday who stood up and said, I don't care about the credit. If it's right, it's right. We had another colleague from the other side stand up and say, the governor's bill is not perfect. They're willing to vote for an imperfect bill, but they're not willing to vote for our bill. And when I say our, I say the legislature, Madam Speaker. And if the governor had let that go into law, that our would have included the governor of Guam. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of the politics. I'm sick and tired of the grandstanding. I'm sick and tired of the one-upsmanship. What has it led to? It's led to Armanumco having to come in here on a Saturday morning to witness all of this. And I'm very, very glad they're here. Would they rather be somewhere else? Absolutely. So now colleagues who said yesterday that they're okay with $1,500, go look them in the eye and tell them there's an opportunity to save $10 million. And you know what? I don't believe the numbers. But yet the numbers came from the Department of Administration. The very branch that is run by your party, not our party. Now you're taking information that's coming from your side and you're saying, oh, I don't trust the numbers. But you know what? You know what, Madam Speaker? We had a colleague who said, wow, this sounds really, really good. This sounds really, really good. But if the numbers are right, I'm not sure it's right, but it sounds really, really good. What is it going to take for you guys to compromise? So I'm not going to compromise on the back of Armanumco. I'm not going to be, like one colleague said, I'm not going to be a party to any attempt to embarrass the governor. We never attempted to embarrass the governor, Madam Speaker. He started it. He started it by telling us, you guys, you senators. He didn't say Democrats. He didn't say Republicans. He said, you senators, give the hard-working GovCom employees their money. You give them the hay. His own director, do I need to play the tape? His own director said, take the $11 million and pay the hay. Well, $11 million is full implementation of hay, right? And so when we said, what a great idea, Governor, that's what we're going to do. All of a sudden it's, oh, no, we can't do that. We don't have the money. What is it? What is it when he's claimed there's no deficit? When he's claimed that the economy is strong? Where he's claimed that tax refunds are being paid on time? Government is not in the business of saving money when you're not giving all the resources to the people. We are a pay-as-you-go government. Money comes in, money goes out. And where does the money go out to? It goes out to the pockets of our hardworking GovGuam employees, to our retirees. You guys think about it. You know, although my position is majority leader and there's 2 positions in here of all the 15 seats that kind of give us some leeway in being partisan. The minority leader, the majority leader. But under your leadership, Madam Speaker, you've really strived to have this kind of bipartisanship where every vote it's all 15. It's not really one party over the other. We didn't make this a partisan issue, colleagues. It wasn't us that made this a partisan issue. You were okay with this budget. They were okay until they got the call. Until they got the call to go to Adelup and figure out whether or not this is okay for the governor. And now we're going to sit here and be lectured about separation of powers doctrine? You know, I was a product of an administration, coming out of that administration for 8 years. But to this very day, I can say that I'm my own man. I can say that no one ever pulled me by the nose ring. And for the record, Madam Speaker, I want to commend the only lady on the other side of the aisle who's not being pulled by the nose ring. That's Senator Yamashita. She stayed while the others walked out. And so, Madam Speaker, Bill 174-32 identifies savings. It appropriates money. If they would read the bill, and maybe we can have the Vice Speaker read it for them. It does not say go exclusive. It just merely appropriates the money for the health insurance contract. So when they get up one by one and say, oh, we're separation of powers doctrine because we're going to approve the contract in the end. So you want to say what is? This is what it is. What it is appropriates money for the health insurance contract. What it is identifies the savings which the negotiating team pointed out for themselves. What it is, it gives $10 million in taxpayer. And, you know, we don't only do things for GovGuam employees and for retirees. This is one opportunity to say we do things for all of the people of Guam. Because I'm a taxpayer. I don't see why we have to spend an additional $10 million in taxpayer money. I'm also an active member of this government of Guam. I don't see how we should pay for higher premiums. And I don't see how our Manamco should have to pay for higher premiums in the face of telling them that they're not worth another $300 a year. A year. Thank you, Madam Speaker.